Oh, good people. This is Salma. I was um, I wanted to tell you congratulations. You're now done with the biggest parts. You're done with anatomy and biochemistry. Anything that is coming into your way now is pretty much easy and it's easy to be studied. Alhamdulillah, a lot of people texted me, said that anatomy was great, and even how much it was stressful, but they did great. And they were like, I was so happy about the amount of people that texted me, told me that the audios were beneficial and they remembered everything I said. They helped them. So I was really happy about the amount of people that texted me. And now I'm like helping you with histology. I really want that to be beneficial. Um, so basically what I will do is like explain every chapter one by one of these slides of the college. And then there's a girl that made a test, trial test. So we'll solve it together to test yourself and stuff. And I'm basically going to tell you how to memorize the histology. I promise, just if you saw the video and then like studied it for half an hour every chapter, it's like histology would be the easiest, okay? So we'll start with the lymphatic system if you're here, because the last thing you've studied was 104, and that's basically what I'll start with because it's easily to be memorized. So the lymphatic system, the first thing we got to start with is the lymph node. I like to call the lymphatic system the purple system. Most of the slides are purple and that's easily identified. That really helps, but do not depend on that because the slide may not be very well stained. But most of the time it's basically purple, and I really like to call that the purple system. Okay, so very easily. If you want to identify the lymph node under the microscope, you'll find something that is dark purple, and then oh my god, it finally became light. Okay, that's how to identify it easily without getting mixed up with any other organ, spleen, or stuff. Um, to easily identify the lymph node, just see something that was dark and it finally became like a little bit lighter, and then it's like alternating dark, and then here it's light, and then here it's dark again. This is how to identify it under the microscope and in the data show slide to be fast, okay? Basically, if we take a look here, any lymph node or any organ basically has something surrounding it. What surrounds the lymph node is its lymphatic capsule, and that's the capsule basically. So that's the most superficial part of the lymph node. That's the most outer part, okay? That's the capsule. So the capsule is this entire area. Okay, and then if you remember, there was something called the adrenal gland. It has a cortex and a medulla. Cortex basically means the outer part. Medulla means the inner part. So if we do a circle, two concentric circles that way, yeah, okay, I'm having a hard time drawing with a laptop. But here it will be the medulla, and here it will be the cortex. Consider that a lymph node. That's the medulla, and that's the cortex. Great. So the dark part is basically the cortex, and the like light part that is in the middle, that's the medulla. Always remember medulla, middle. That's easy. Okay. So actually, that's the meaning of medulla. That is on the inner side. So basically, that's the capsule, the outer part. And if you remember saying it's like a word in your book that says that the capsule was thickened at the hilum where the vessels enter and leave, where the nerves and the arteries basically enter and the vessels and lymphatics and veins leave. Oh my god, I see something that is getting thickened here to make like a passage for things to enter. What is that? Oh, that's the hilum, if you can take a look. So, okay, that's the thickening of the capsule that it was here. It finally became thickened here. So basically, again, that's the hilum. Okay, I didn't want to ruin the photo, but basically, that's the capsule. It got thickened. Oh my god, here. And I like do not see that purple part. So that's the hilum. Okay, I know the hilum was in the concave area where the arteries and the nerves enter and the veins and the lymphatics exit. I do understand that, but it's not like equal on every slide. But basically, it's the thickening of the capsule that identifies here. I found thickening of the capsule. Some things that are going that way. That's basically the hilum. Great. The medulla is that part. And that's the cortex. Under the cortex was the paracortical region. Paracortical region was even the one that loved the thymus and the T lymphocytes so much. So that's the paracortical region. How to identify? Oh my god, it has no lymphatic follicles. Here are the follicles. Ends here. And here started the paracortical region. Okay, I just cannot like draw it perfectly because I'm using the mouse. I'm sorry, but basically that's the cortex. Okay, and it has a paracortical region. The cortex here has some sort of lymphatic follicles. So where you can find the follicles, that's the cortex. So that's here the cortex because there are follicles. They're trabecally stuck. So that's the cortex. And the one that has no follicles and it's like diffuse, homogeneous, whatever, whatsoever, that's the paracortical region, which is the thymus dependent zone. Okay, medulla had two things, if you remember, was blood sinusoids, medullary cord and medullary sinus, I'm sorry. So that's the medullary cords, and the sinus is the space between the cords. That's easy. So those ones, again, the cords, and the space is the medullary sinus. These ones are trabecally. How to differentiate between trabecular and sinus? Because I was getting shocked on how to differentiate between them. I genuinely have no scientific idea, but I just said that sometimes the sinuses are stained. Trabecally or some sinuses are like white, trabecally are like colored. And I know that's not scientific, but this is how I memorize it. You're getting very close to your exam, and we just need memorization now. So again, that's the cortex. And no, that's I'm sorry, that's the where's the damn thing? That's the cortex. That's the capsule. That's the paracortical region, the region that has no follicles. That's the secondary follicle. Why is that a secondary follicle? Oh, because it has a germinal center. It's like pale inside. You can see the pale here, and it's like dark from outside. Okay, and that's the hilum getting thickened from a capsule. These ones are trabecally. You can see it here. That's the medulla, and it has medullary cords and sinuses. Sinus is white. So basically, I'm sorry, that's not scientific, but it really helps with memorization. Medullary cords, medullary sinuses, and we're done. Let's go to the other slide. We're perfect. Okay, who's that? Oh, that's a lymph node. Why? Not because the other one was a lymph node and we're basically studying the lymphatic system, no, but because we have three regions, 1, 2, and 3, and those three regions are covered by a capsule. So if you see it, be confident that's lymph node. Okay, that's the capsule number 6, and that's the cortex, paracortical region, and that's the medulla. What's in there? We're gonna discuss it. But if you found 3 layers that are covered by a capsule, and you can identify there's some follicles and stuff, that's basically the lymph node. So basically, that's number 6 is a capsule. We're done with that one. Okay, for number 2, that's the paracortical region. What's above it? That's the cortex. What's below it? That's the medulla. The best thing I like about lymph node that it's stylish and it has a gradient, so dark, getting lighter, and a lighter purple. But okay, so again, that's the cortex, medulla, paracortical region, and that's the medulla. Okay, these ones are some sort of follicles. Okay, those are the lymphatic follicles or the cortical follicles. Okay, and they are secondary, by the way. And what's between them is the trabecular sinus, or you can say cortical sinus. What's important that it's a sinus, because you will find out after some time that the trabeculae were colored and the sinus was white. And I can prove that to you right now. Here's that. What's that color? Let me erase that. Oh, that's some sort of pinkish. Okay, so that's a trabeculae. Oh, that's a trabecular sinus or cortical sinus. There's the same thing, by the way. But I prefer trabecular sinus. Okay, that's the trabecular sinus. I'm not highlighting anything, dude. Yeah, now we're highlighting. That part is a trabecular sinus. I like saying that it is white. Okay, that's not scientific, but this is how I memorize it. And these are the lymphatic follicles or cortical follicles, and basically they have a germinal center here. So they're secondary cortical follicles. This is the capsule. That's the subcapsular space, by the way. Number 7, subcapsular sinus. That space is a sinus. Sinus means something that is empty. So that's subcapsular space, subcapsular sinus. It doesn't matter. These are the lymphoid follicles. Now the medulla, the paracortical region. Now the medulla here. Medulla has two things, either the medullary cords or medullary sinuses. So we're talking here. That's an empty space. Sinus means an empty space, so that's a medullary sinus, number 9. But number 4, that's something that is anastomosing, branching, and stuff. That's the medullary cords. Great, so number 3 is the medulla, medullary cords. Here are and that's the medullary sinus. Perfect. So, yeah, let me just remove the highlighter. Yeah. So again, one quick revision. That's the capsular. That's the subcapsular sinus. That's the cortical sinus or trabecular sinus. Doesn't matter. That's the lymphoid follicle. And basically, again, lymphoid follicle or corticals, follicle, it doesn't matter. The most important thing that is secondary. Basically, that's the paracortical region. Of course, where's the mouse? Yeah, that's the paracortical region, and that's the cortex, and that's the medulla. What's above it? Cortex. What's below it? The medulla. Medulla has medullary cords and medullary sinus. Sinus is the white part here. That's a medullary sinus. And now we're done. Okay, what's that? A lymph node. Why? Because there's some 3 layers that are getting covered by a capsule. And it's gradient, dude. So that's the capsule. And that's the lymphatic follicles. And lymphatic follicles means we're in the cortex. So that's the subcapsular sinus. Great. This is how to easily memorize. Again, that's the capsule. Now we're here in the cortex. So what's between them? Subcapsular sinus. Sub means below. Capsular means below the capsule. Now you're anatomists and you're very cool in practical anatomy. If you remember something on a clavicle muscle in the inferior border, that was called the subclavian groove for the subclavius. What does clavius mean? Clavius means this clavicle, dude. What's below it is the subclavian groove, because it's the groove below the clavicle for the subclavius muscle. What does subclavius mean? Oh, that's the muscle below the clavicle. That's the same thing. Subcapsular. It's the capsule. It's the sinus below the capsule, right? That's the cortex. That's the trabeculum. As I said, it's just colored. The sinus is white. Here's the sinus. And I have no scientific idea how, but this is how to easily memorize it. Great. If you look at the other photo, that's the that's the capsule. And where's the subcapsular? Like here, that's the subcapsule, and that's this capsule. You see that capsule? That's subcapsular sinus. Here, that's the capsule. That part. Okay. And that's the subcapsular sinus. Here. That's the capsule. We can even see the cells. That's the trabecular sinus. What did he say? Oh my god, the sinus. And it was white. So I have no scientific idea why, but the sinus is white and the trabeculae are not white. And you will understand how important that is after 2 minutes when we see the spleen. No, not that one, I'm sorry. That's the lymphatic follicles, they're secondary. Okay, that's the capsule, subcapsular space, that's trabeculae, and it's colored, oh my god. And that's the trabecular sinus, oh my god, it's not colored, this is what I was saying. And this is how to easily memorize it. Go. Who's that? Lymph node again. Yeah, that's the capsule. We're histologists now. Who's that? That's the capsule. Subcapsular sinus. Here's that, a lymphatic follicle. Oh my god, because we're in the cortex. And here, anything else? That's the cortex, subcapsular. You stop bothering me. Yeah, that's the lymphatic follicle. And we're done. Go. Who's that? Oh my god. When I see something that is thickened and the trabeculae, what do we say? It's irregular. There is no regularity and stuff. The irregular trabeculae, and it's like branching, and it's irregular, and it's like non-organized. Oh my god, that's a spleen. And by the way, you can identify the spleen easily under the microscope by seeing if it's used by the red lens, because any slide that you will have in histology is identified as used with the yellow lens, except for the spleen. It's used by the red lens is used for it, basically. So if you found an organ that is under a red lens, that's basically the spleen. Just make sure, if because some people may be bad, so they change the lens, but that's not allowed, by the way, in the exam. But make sure that if there's an organ under the red lens, that's basically the spleen. But anyways, we're talking data show here. That's the capsule. It's thickened, right? Oh my god, why is it thickened? Because it has a lot of collagen fibers. You can see how acetophilic and condensed they are. That's some collagen fibers here. That's trabeculae. They're like anastomosing. They're irregular and they're short. That's the trabeculae. And the spleen doesn't have the parenchyma stuff. It just has white pulp and red pulp. White pulp are aggregations. No, this is how I memorize it. That's not scientific, but they're aggregation of circular aggregations of some stuff. The red pulp is the rest of the stuff. So how do we memorize that? Let me write that down. The white pulp. Oh, these are aggregations of some circular stuff. Okay, what about the red pulp? the rest, the stuff. Okay, let me change the damn color. You want to see it? Okay, how do we see it? We see it in black, of course, yeah. So how do we memorize the red pulp and white pulp? When we're done with the capsule, when we're done with it trabecally, note that when you're just into the spleen itself, the white pulp are some aggregations of some circular stuff. Red pulp is the rest of the stuff. So what does that basically mean? But that's a good mnemonic. Basically, that if you found like aggregated circular stuff like that, I can even mark one by myself. Here basically. Let me take a look. Did they mark all of them? No, like that. You can see it's circular, the circularity here. So these are the white pulp. Great. They have a center arteriole. Around that center arteriole is the para-arteriolar lymphatic sheath. And then here they have the germinal center, which then has the follicular and then a marginal. So yeah, the white pulp has a central arteriole. Around it, it's the para-arteriolar lymphatic sheath. And then go there in the center. There's the germinal center. Around it, that is follicular zone. Around the follicular zone, that's basically the marginal one. Great. The red pulp are the rest of the stuff. I know they have blood sinusoids and Baruth codes and stuff, but I'm just telling you how to memorize it. Okay. So again, that's the white pulp. That's the red pulp. Yeah. So that's the capsule. Trabecally, they're short and regular. And organized. They're thick. There are a lot of collagen bundles. Basically, that's the white pulp. Here's the central arteriole. Around it, the para-arteriolar lymphatic sheath, and that's thymus dependent, buddy. And then when you go to the germinal center, there's like the germinal center has a lot of B lymphocytes, and then you go greater to the follicular zone, and it's still B lymphocytes. When you go to the marginal one, like he says, oh my god, I didn't have a lot of T lymphocytes, so it's B and T together. Okay, that's the spleen again. How do we know? Oh, that's easy part. Okay, we can see some trabeculae here. We can see trabeculae here. Just take a look and enjoy. These are some trabeculae. Where are those? These are trabeculae. I can see here some trabeculae. If you have a problem with your glasses, tell the doctor to tell you to sit in front to be able to see correctly. Do not sit in the back and say I did not see. All of these are trabeculae to identify. That's a capsule, basically. So that's a capsule, trabeculae, trabeculae. Just have a look and enjoy trabeculae. All of these are trabeculae. Okay, if we would take here, there's an aggregation of some circular stuff. Let me see that. Oh, that's the aggregation of some circular stuff. Wow. So what is that? That's the central arteriole, para-arteriolar lymphatic sheath, germinal center here. And then like when you get bigger, that's the follicular. And then here, that's the margin, no, the one with the blue circle. Right. What about the rest of the stuff? Oh, that's the red pulp. Okay, I know about everything that is in the red pulp, but I mean now it's something visual that we can see and identify. So I'm just trying to tell you how to identify greatly, okay? So again, what is that? That's the spleen. How do we know? Because it has a capsule and a lot of trabeculae that I can easily recognize. And then there are some sort of aggregations of some circular stuff. And that's a good idea because when you see some circular stuff, that's the white pulp. Great. And then the red pulp, which has a lot of things, I know, but we're talking here about how to visualize it. I know there's the splenic, the Billroth cords, and the blood sinusoids, but we're talking here about how do you visualize it. You wouldn't visualize that here. So that's the red pulp, which is the rest of the non-circular stuff. And this is some sort of aggregations of some circular stuff. So that's the white pulp. Central arteriole. Now, we're done. Oh, why didn't it change? Let me close that. Again. Why aren't you changing, dude? Yeah. Again, how do we know that? Oh, that's some sort of trabeculae. Forget about that word. Consider it not here. Forget about that. He's running that upwards. But you can see some trabeculae, some aggregations of some circular stuff. If we see some sort of aggregations of some circular stuff, that's arteriole. para-arteriolar lymphatic sheath, and then go to the other side. In the middle, that's the germinal center. It's basically has a lot of B lymphocytes. And then we're getting a little bit bigger, so that's the follicular zone. Bigger and bigger, that's the marginal. And that's the arteriole. So what's surrounded, that's the para-arteriolar lymphatic sheath. You know, there was a word called paratracheal lymph nodes. Now, you're an anatomist, you're done with the practical anatomy, you've studied the mediastinum and know what are the paratracheal lymph nodes. So, what are the paratracheal lymph nodes? They are beside the trachea. So, what is the para-arteriolar lymphatic sheath? That's a sheath that is around the arteriole. Same thing, buddy. Medicine is perfect. So, that's the central arteriole, para-arteriolar lymphatic sheath. Basically, that's the germinal center. That one is the follicular zone, and basically that one is the marginal one because it's the bigger one. We can see here some things that are anastomosing. You can see that anastomosing, branching. Here's it. What are those? Those are trabeculae. Okay, so we're done with everything that is in a white pulp. So the germinal, follicular, marginal, and para-arteriolar lymphatic sheath. Okay, and we're done with the central arteriole, and we're done with the trabeculae. So what is left from this stuff is the red pulp. This is how I memorize it easily. I know what there are some sort of components, blood broth cohorts, and blood sinusoids, but these are not here. You cannot see them, so we're talking. So the aggregations of some circular stuff, that's white pulp. The rest of the stuff, that's the red pulp. Go. What's that? Oh, I can see a way that it's a thymus and a way of any scientific matter. What I'm saying is basically helping you to memorize. So a way of any scientific manner, I can see something that is purple, okay, and it's segmented, has a lot of segments, and I can see that there's a lot of here trabeculae, if you can see that, and it's purple. I know I told you that the lymph node is gradient. That's gradient as well, but it's segmented. Lymph node is diffuse gradient, okay? All of it is gradient. That one is segmented gradient, okay? But I do not care literally about the gradient. Now I'm seeing something that is purple and it's segmented, has a lot of segments, and then it's divided. That's the thymus. This is how I memorize it. I know that may not be good for some people. That's not very much scientific manner, but it really helps me to memorize. So that's the thymus. Thymus is arranged into incomplete lobules, if you remember that in your book. So that's basically a thymic lobule. Oh, it's already marked. I'm sorry, I didn't see the mark. So number 1, that's the thymic lobule. Okay, it's already cut into a lobule, incomplete one, if you remember. And what separates a lobule from another lobule is something like here. That's the trabeculae. You know, when you're going on a date with a cute girl, and something separates both of you, that is a third wheel friend. Oh, that's basically the trabeculae. Okay, that's the same idea. So what separates a lobule from another lobule, thymic lobule, of course, is the trabeculae. Here, that's the trabeculae. You're the third wheel of your date. Right, trabeculae. So what's a trabeculae? Scientifically, what separates two lobules? So what's a trabeculae in our language? Oh, that's third wheel. So okay, basically I'm removing this because I'm ruining the image. and that's the lobule. The lobule, as anything, I said, if that's the adrenal gland, the inner side is the medulla, the outer is the cortex. Don't think much. That's something that has a gradient. So the inner part is the medulla, outer is the cortex. Inner part is the medulla, outer is cortex. So I think we've covered everything. That's the capsule, of course. We're talking about the anything. Anything is covered with something. Spleen is covered by peritoneum and it has a splenic capsule. Lymph node is covered by a capsule. Thymus is covered by a capsule. We ourselves are covered by skin, so anything is covered by anything. So if it's like mentioned in the purple system, as I like to call it, if he mentioned like the outer part, that's a capsule. Do not think much. So that's the thymic capsule. That's a thymic lobule. That's another thymic lobule. That one. Okay, and that's our third wheel, which is the trabeculae. A thymic lobule has a medulla and has a cortex. Okay, anything else? No, go. Why are you not changing the slide, dude? Okay, again. I can see something that is purple and it's segmented, it has a lot of segments to incomplete lobules. Now that's pretty much apparent to you. And it's segmented to incomplete lobules, and it's purple. Not most of the time purple. I said do not really depend on the color, because as you can see here, by the way, that's a vessel, but that's not the point. But as you can see here, it became paler. Okay, so now, but we're focusing. The lobules are always purple. So basically, that's the capsule, and that's the thymic lobule, the one that I'm traversing. And here, that's the medulla. Here, that's the cortex. And here is our lovely third wheel. Oh, what's that? That's the trabeculae. Right? Yeah, so that's the medulla, cortex, lobule, trabeculae. Medulla, cortex, capsule, trabeculae. Is there anything else I forgot? I guess not. Go. There's that. Oh, you know, in the medulla, there was some sort of circular acidophilic something that was called Hazel's corpuscle. So that's basically it. It's a circular acidophilic something in the medulla. So if we're talking thymus here, so thymus is the mother of the T lymphocytes. So anything that is around the Hazel corpuscles are the T lymphocytes. So basically, it's something that is acidophilic and circular into the this is how to memorize it. Okay, I'm not talking in any scientific manner, I'm repeating. So basically that's the Hazel's corpuscles, T lymphocytes, and we're here in the medulla again. The most famous thing to identify the tonsil is the crypt. Okay, and that's the palatine tonsil, of course. Here we can see the tonsillar crypt. This is how to easily identify it. So the most important thing in the tonsil is the tonsillar crypt. The most important thing is the tonsillar crypt. So basically that's the tonsillar crypt. This is how to, when you see it, oh, that's the tonsil, and I'm not thinking again. The tonsil also has some sort of mucus glands, and it has some sort of lymphatic follicles. So here's the lymphatic follicle. Of course, follicle from nodule, it doesn't matter. So that's some lymphatic follicles, or nodules, doesn't matter. Okay, and that's the epithelium that is lining the crypt. What was it? What was non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium? Want to make sure? Here's that. Don't worry, we're histologists. Yeah, that's non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium, if you don't trust me. Okay, the non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. um, these are the lymphatic follicles. That's the tonsillar crypt. Go. Oh, I can see a crypt. People are going to dig here. So if I see someone that is going to dig, oh, that's a tonsil. Don't look a lot. Here the mucus glands are apparent. Here's that. So again, if I can see a crypt, that's a tonsil. They even crypt, and you know that mnemonic is good. I'm gonna write it out, and I'm gonna do something that is called crypt, ends with a T. So tonsil begins with the other one, T, tonsil. Always remember that part. We're crypt. We're highlighting that. We're not highlighting it? Oh, we are. Yeah. So tonsil. So crypt ends with a T, and a tonsil begins with a T. And I want to do something. You know that? Yeah, I'm highlighting that thing. Anyway, so crypt, any crypt is that's definitely a tonsil. That's a non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. We're here in the crypt, of course. Here, non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. Here, these are the lymphatic follicles, and these are the mucus glands. Where are they? One thing about the mucus glands, they are apparent in the tonsils very easily. We have something called the diffuse lymphocytes. There are some sort of lymphocytes that have the same color. That's the basic meaning of diffuse. So you can see the same color here. So these are some sort of diffuse lymphocytes. Okay. So basically, non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium, tonsillar crypt. These are the mucus glands and diffuse lymphocytes. Go. Oh, we're now examining. I was explaining with an open heart and very carefully. I didn't leave anything. Now, when we're in the exam, you're now great. You're gonna like answer quickly. What is that? Oh, I can see a gradient. That's some sort of dark and it's getting here lighter. Okay, that I said does not depend on that much because the gradient isn't really apparent, but I can see that there's some sort of dark purple here, and that's lighter purple. But I said previously, don't even depend on the colors that much, but they may help. And these are 3 layers that are covered by a capsule. So basically, that's a lymph node. Since that's a lymph node, now we're good. We can identify it easily. That's the capsular, and that's the subcapsular sinus, and that's the cortical follicle or lymphatic follicle. The most important thing about it that is secondary. We're talking here. That space is the cortex. Great. Yeah. Since we here still have follicles. By the way, that's a primary one, but no problem. So the lymph node was captured just in the cortex. This is why I told you don't depend on the color, but you can see some sort of gradient here. That's lighter, that's darker. Anyway, so again, that's the capsule, and that's the subcapsular sinus, and that's the trabecular sinus, and that purple line is a trabeculae, and that's the cortical follicle or lymphatic follicle. The most important thing about it that it's secondary, and B traverses the cortex. Okay, now answer the questions. Identify the organ. Lymph node. Yellow triangle points to the capsule. Black arrow points towards the black arrow. Subcapsular sinus. Letter A limits the lymphatic follicle. Letter B demarcates the cortex. Again, we can see something that is gradient. It was dark here. Now it's light. So now we saw the medulla. So who's that? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Who's that? That's the capsule. The subcapsular sinus isn't really apparent, but you can see it right underneath it. And that's a lymphatic follicle. And that's, of course, a lymph node. And that's the medulla. These are the medullary cords. And that white part is the medullary sinus. And all of this is the medulla. Okay? That's the paracortical region where the follicle stopped. And that's the cortex. Has a lot of region. And that's a secondary follicle because here is some sort of dark, and now it became lighter. So again, who's that? A lymph node. Let me see the questions. Follicle pointed by the red arrow. Oh, we're here. I want to make sure that I'm recording. Love to say this, and I'm not recording. I'm recording, right? Yeah. Best of luck. So I'm sorry about that. So basically, that's the cortex. Okay. So follicle pointed by the red arrow is the secondary lymphatic follicle. The green star points to the medulla. Identify the organ. That's a lymph node. Voila. What's that? Oh, that's a gradient. If we're here onto the gradient, we're basically in a lymph node. Okay. Who's that? A capsule. Who's that? A capsule. Who's that? No capsule here. Because he captured it to see the medulla. The other was captured to see the cortex. Okay, there's a gradient. We're seeing a gradient, we're fine. Basically, that's the capsule. This is a section in a lymph node. Yellow arrow points to the capsule. Space pointed to the black arrow. Where's the black arrow, dude? Yeah, that's the subcapsular sinus. I mentioned that the sinus is white, and the trabeculae is most of the time is colored. So that's the cortical sinus, and that's the trabeculae. See the difference? Okay. That's the subcapsular sinus, and that's the cortex. That's the cortex, and the yellow line traverses the medulla. So let me see the questions again. That's a section in the lymph node, as you can see. Yellow arrow points to the capsule. Space pointed out by the black arrow. I'm sorry, read wrong. The black arrow points to the subcapsular sinus. Pointed to by the red arrow, that's the trabecular sinus. The blue arrow, where's the blue arrow? Trabeculum. Blue line traverses the cortex, while the yellow one traverses the medulla. Where's the green circle? Oh, that's a lymphatic follicle, and it's secondary. The letters A, B, and G. Where's A, B, and G? Oh, here are they. A, medullary quartz. A, here, medullary quartz. B, that's a medullary sinus. What did I say? The cords are, like, the sinus is white, so you can see basically some sort of white here. G, where's G? Yeah, here is it. Oh, that's a germinal center. Let me see. Yeah. Perfect. Oh, I can see some sort of aggregated circular something, and the rest of is something, and I can see some trabeculae here, and a capsule. Oh, that's a spleen, isn't it? So basically, now like we're having a master degree in spleen. That's so easy. Who's that? That's a capsule. So the red arrow points to the capsule. Of course, that's a section in a spleen. The blue circle, where's oh, that's aggregated circular something. So yeah, what is that? The white pulp. The green arrow, where's the green arrow? Oh, the central arteriole. You can see it here. What's around it? If you think of what's really around it, you're so smart as hell. So what's around it? Yeah, the para-arteriolar lymphatic sheath. You're perfect, dude. Where's the numbers from 1 to 7? So yeah, from 1 to 7. So we're here. So if we want to see like 6 and 7 here, but I prefer to say them lastly because like to say a point that I said. So I'll begin from here. I'm sorry. So number 1, that's the germinal center, and above it that's the follicular zone, and above it that's the marginal. Basically, that's the central arteriole, and what's around it, that's the para-arteriolar lymphatic sheath. The blue circle surrounds the white pulp. Now we find something that is anastomosing and branching. Here's it. That's trabeculae. You see the branching? That's trabeculae. You see the branching? That's trabeculae. What's the rest of this something? That's the red pulp. So number 6 is the red pulp. We're done. Okay, I can see something that is basically segmented, as you can see, and I just said don't really depend on the color, but here it's blue, neither purple, but it doesn't really matter. It's like lobulated and it has some sort of segments trabeculae. That's the third wheel. Remember the third wheel body? That's the thymus. And in the medulla of the thymus, we have that Hazel's corpuscle. So it's basically a circular cell, and it's acetophilic, as I said. That's a section in the thymus. Black arrow points. Where's the black arrow? Where's the black arrow? Yeah, the black arrow points to the capsule. The yellow one. Where's the yellow one? Trabeculae. That's the third wheel. The red line. Where's the red line? That's the cortex, because it's the outer part. Why the green one? Where's the green though? That's medulla, of course. We just mentioned that blue circle. Where's the Hazel's corpuscle? Outside that cell are the T lymphocytes. So again, that's the thymus, capsule, trabeculae, cortex, medulla, Hazel's corpuscles, and T lymphocytes. Now I can see a crypt. If I can see a crypt that ends with a T, so we're beginning with the thymus. That we're beginning with a tonsil that begins with a T. So crypt, tonsil. Never forget that crypt, tonsil. Okay, that's a crypt. So we're here in the tonsil. That's the first thing. The tonsil has a very famous epithelium, which is non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. So epithelium with blue arrow is non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. Red arrow. Where's the red arrow? Oh yeah, that's a crypt. Tonsillar crypt. Where is the black arrow? Oh, that's a mucus gland, and it's very apparent. Where is the red circle? Red circle, red circle. No, that's the lymphatic follicle, and that's diffuse lymphocytes. Okay, that's a follicle. Why is that? Because it's a circular, and you can see that's a follicle. That's diffuse because they're homogeneous, same color and stuff. That's the crypt. That's the non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. Oh, I can see something that is segmented, and it has a. Is it segmented? No, I said the sign. Sorry, I mean I see something that has here a crypt. So that's a tonsil. Yellow arrow points to the tonsillar crypt and the type of epithelium non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. Labels. Labels are so easy, and you're gonna like know them. What is that? That's a lymph node. And the capsule got thickened. Here's like some, that's the width of the capsule, and finally it became like this. So what happened? Some sort of thickening where the nerve and the arteries enter, and then veins and the lymphatics exit. So that's the hilum, basically. That's a blood vessel. Hilum, blood vessel. That's the capsule. Okay, and we're talking cortex. That's the secondary follicle, which has a pale zone here, and that's the primary follicle. Okay, so secondary, primary, and that's the cortex. Okay, that's the trabeculae. Of course, the trabeculae, even in the label, are colored. Okay, and that's medulla. where the medulla has medullary cords and sinuses. So that's the cord, and the sinus is an empty space. So basically, that's the sinus. So sinus, cords. So again, quickly, that's secondary follicles of the cortex, primary follicles of the cortex. That's the capsule. Thickening of the capsule took place at the hilum. These are some blood vessels. That's the medulla, medullary cords, and the empty space are the medullary sinus. Go. What is that? Oh, I know that I can see some aggregated circular something. What's the rest of this something? That's white, red pulp. So the white pulp is the aggregated circular something, and the rest of the something are the red pulp. So that's basically the red pulp. That's the white pulp. The white pulp has here central arteriole and para-arteriolar lymphatic sheath, and that's the marginal zone. Under it, that's a follicular, and then into it, that's a germinal center. Basically, these are the blood sinusoids. Now you can see them. Okay, those are the blood sinusoids. Are they labeled here? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, here's it. So these are the blood sinusoids, and these are the splenic cords. Billroth cords, they even call it. Write that name down. You can say Billroth cords. Okay, cords or splenic cords, of course. Blood sinusoids. These are the white pulp, white pulp again. These are the trabeculae, and they are like not regular. That part is pretty much greater than that part. That's the capsule. Of course, you know the spleen is an abdominal organ, so it's definitely covered by peritoneum. And that's everything considering the lymphatic system. I hope that was helpful. Best of luck.